next guest has battled mental health issues since his teenage years, experiencing extended highs and lows, many of which could have lasted months at a time.
Now, it wasn't until years later that Liam Gilday was eventually diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and Liam is here to talk about his experience and is also joined by Professor of Psychiatry at Trinity College, Brendan Kelly. Good morning to both of you. Thank you very much for coming in. Liam, we'll chat to you in a moment, but Brendan, can you tell us what is bipolar disorder and how do you notice the symptoms?
Well, bipolar disorder is a mental illness that occurs in around 1% of people, and it's characterised by episodes of depression and then episodes of elation or mania, it's sometimes called, where the person gets very hyper, filled with energy, filled with ideas, buzzing with energy, wanting to do lots of things. And then between episodes, there can be periods of stability as well. But it's really these sustained mood episodes, maybe several weeks or months depressed, and then several weeks or months elated or a bit manic.
So it wouldn't happen within, like, you're down one day and up another. It is over weeks or months that you're actually quite down and then quite high.
Exactly. It's over weeks and months. So, if you're feeling sad in the morning, happy in the afternoon, sad in the evening, that's not bipolar disorder. That's just your mood sort of bouncing around a bit during the day.
Okay. And does it manifest at a certain age?
Well, it tends to start most commonly around the early 20s, but it can appear at different times. But perhaps one of the big difficulties is with diagnosing it, with recognising it, because many people can recognise depression, but maybe the elation is a little more difficult to label.
I can imagine, Liam, because what was it like for you? When was it noticed that there's something going on here?
Yeah, when I was 16, I realised I was low, but then I thought I was just a moody teenager. And I always kind of tried to justify it, and I was like, this is just something I have to go through. But as the years passed by, it's clearly evident then that the depressive episodes were getting worse. But as Brendan was saying, it took me a long, long time to see the elated periods. And people often ask me, well, why was that the case? Well, I could have been coming out of a 9-month depressive episode, and like a flick of a switch, all of a sudden I have huge energy. I have little need for sleep. I'm spending any bit of money I have. I'm the life and soul of the party. It's very, very hard to admit to yourself then that there's a problem. And you talk to a lot of people with bipolar. They all say the same thing. The highs are really enjoyable.
And the highs are enjoyable, but then how long was that going on before you noticed, I have to do something about this?
Look, I felt the stigma as a young fella, I got to 2009 and I said, I have to do something with these depressive episodes. So I presented myself to a GP, but I never gave him the full story. I just said to him, look, I'm severely depressed, I'm suicidal, and what could he do? Only treat me for depression. But the problem with that is you put somebody that's bipolar on antidepressants, it does the job, but then it shoots them too high.
But did you not see somebody at that stage? Did you not see a psychiatrist or anybody at that stage that they could talk you through and you could talk through your symptoms with them?
Yeah, but I wasn't being fully honest.
You weren't. You didn't tell them that. You didn't tell your doctor. You didn't tell the psychiatrist.
Yeah, the onus and responsibility was on me to be honest. And if I'm not being honest, it's not the GP's fault.
No.
But the interesting thing is, because it manifested in you with depressive episodes that you really did notice, but you really loved the highs. So you're like, oh, this could be my baseline. This could be who I am.
Yeah.
So kind of going, so then it is. You could understand how people might think it is depression.
Yeah. And
or am I kind of, or were you going, there is actually something going on?
Well, and look, there's different types of bipolar. There's bipolar type 1 and there's bipolar type 2. What's the differentiating factor? It's the level of the mania. So bipolar 1, the mania is very, very evident, generally ends in hospitalisation. Hypomania is not as evident. There's a huge element of arrogance and grandiose with that condition. So if you didn't know me, you just think I was an arrogant git. And, you think, he's cocky, he's full of himself. So it's not that evident. It could be just a personality type.
For you, what were those highs then? When you were on the highs, what were you doing?
Look, ask any family that have a family member that are bipolar, they find the manic periods worse. Because you're a loose cannon. There's nothing you can get yourself in a lot of trouble.
And did you?
Like one of the funniest things was I used to get this thing called rapid speech. So we're having a chat here and we're engaging and we're not cutting across. When I was having rapid speech, I could like speak to someone for about 2 hours. So I remember back in 2009, and I'd been on the phone for like 19 hours in the space of a week. Now, I was holding down a job at the same time, but I'll never forget ringing the phone company and they said, yeah, you owe €700. But at the time, it just felt so normal to be non-stop, incessant chatting. But people always say, like, how did you not? How did you not see that? And I always say to people, it's like, if you start talking Spanish to me, I don't have the knowledge in my head to talk back. I don't have that knowledge. And that was like when I was high, I just didn't have the knowledge. But like getting a good GP and a regular GP, and you know, how did we finally figure it was bipolar? So I got myself a regular GP, and then would say I was going in for a physical symptom, and he noticed that I was high.
Okay.
So I finally got a diagnosis in 2013. And he was great, and he referred me to a psychiatric daycare centre where I could walk in Monday to Friday. Psychiatric hospital wasn't part of my treatment plan, but once I got the diagnosis and got the medication right, the mood stabilising medication, things got easier, but there was a couple of bumps on the road.
Because you stopped taking your medication.
Yeah, myself and Brendan were on about this earlier.
Is that one of the signs of people with bipolar? They tend to come off their medication.
Yeah, bipolar is a very treatable condition. As you know, there are treatments that help a lot. There are medications. There's daycare support when that's available. Regulating sleep and diet and lifestyle is important. But very often there can be breakthrough hypomania, which is the lesser form of mania, or severe mania. And usually at that point, the medication gets stopped because, you know, the thoughts are racing, there's grandiosity in the thinking, no need for medication. And at the extreme end, a person can, you know, become very, very elated, maybe feel they're on a mission, you know, to save the world and so forth. And, you know, medication, you know, it doesn't feel to them medication has any role in that.
Because that's what you hear with people who are bipolar in the press, like when they talk about it, it's like they want that high. Like, you know, when you think about it, when anyone likes something like, you know, alcohol or drugs or something like that, it's an addiction. So can that be how it presents, that you're kind of like, you feel like you're going up and you're like, this feels good, I want this, so bye-bye drugs.
Yeah, I mean, you have extreme levels of confidence. You offer that to any person, and it's a nice choice to take. But look, there's the ramifications for leaving the hypomania untreated means my hypomanic episodes were usually about 4 or 5 months, but then when I crashed, the depressive episodes lasted anything from 9 to 18 months.
And,
wow.
And how are you now?
Yeah, and we were chatting about this beforehand. There is a misconception with people with bipolar that they're never stable. But like, I've been stable now for the guts of 5 years, and I don't have, thank God, I don't have bad days. I just have a normal life, and look, the illness is always perceived as a negative thing. It's so many positives. Like, it's opened so many opportunities, you know.
Because it's not just you, and that's the thing for bipolar. For anyone that has issues, it is the people around you as well that it affects their lives, I would assume.
Yeah, and you know, having a support network is great too. You know, it's up to you to educate your family and friends about it. And at least then I've great mates, like, and you know, if I'm on a WhatsApp group and I'm sending them a ton of messages at 4 a.m. on a Sunday night, which has happened, they'll be on to the wife and saying,
there's something wrong. They know there's something wrong.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I call these people spotters. So sometimes they can spot. It's just nip it on the bud. Yeah.
And how do you do that? If there was anyone here this morning who was listening in and something's kind of connecting with them, Brendan, is there something that you could say to them? Obviously, go to your GP.
Yeah, now going to your GP is important if you think you might have depression or might have bipolar disorder. But maybe the more tricky situation is if you think someone in your family is elated and they're filled with this, you know, pressure of speech and all these ideas, and they seem to be hypomanic and manic. They might not be willing to listen to you. They could be flying along and believing they're perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Now, if that is the case, it is helpful to be patient, to, you know, try and make your point as gently as possible, not take the rejection as personally as you might, and wait for maybe a better moment to come or talk to another family member. This is difficult on families. And I don't know about in your instance, Liam, but often there is overspending, there is disinhibited behaviour, relationships can take a real hit. And that's usually during an episode of elation. And one of the difficult aspects is after treatment, the person looking back on what they did and building bridges, repairing relationships. But the condition is treatable. So people should talk to their GPs about it and do be honest about hypomania or, periods of elation, because it can be such an important clue.
Well, thank you so much for coming in, and congratulations, 5 years. You seem really happy, which is great.
Yeah, I managed to release a book as well. So, like I said, look, there's been loads of opportunities allowed to change my career. It's just, I have a great appreciation for my life, I have great appreciation for my health. I've empathy to other people, so, life is great.
It's good. It's called High Life, Low Life, Living with Bipolar Disorder, which really lets people into it and see what it's like. Thank you so much, Liam Gildea. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm Brendan Kelly, Professor of Psychiatry at Trinity College Dublin on this World Bipolar Day. Thank you so much for
Thank you very much for coming in.